Welcome back to the kitchen. In this video I'm going to show you how to make these absolute god tier protein balls. Now per serving of this we have about 42.5 grams of protein and only 335 calories. Once you've made this once, I would say this is on par with the French toast recipe. It is probably one of the easiest things that you can have and again take to work with you in a Tupperware and heat it up when you get there. So let's go. Hello and welcome back to the kitchen. In this video we're going to be making my high protein breakfast balls. Now this is another really simple recipe. First off, we're going to need 650 grams of cottage cheese. If you can't get this exact one, try and get a low fat cottage cheese. So that's the first ingredient. We're then going to need 120 grams of all-purpose flour, 2 eggs, 20 grams of white sugar and 20 grams of butter. We're using the Lurpak lighter, lightly salted one. So first off, what we're going to do is get a Tupperware, glass one, plastic one, doesn't really matter. And into that Tupperware, we're going to weigh out 20 grams of butter. And then once you've done this, basically just leave it to the side because you're not going to be using that until later. So definitely weigh this out, 19 grams, right? So we'll go with 19 grams for this one. Ideally, we will have 20. And once you've done that, just put it to one side and you will see why in a minute. For the next step, basically just get yourself a big, massive bowl. Stick that onto your scales. Now these cottage cheese tubs are basically 250 grams each, so we're going to be using 650 grams. So obviously first off we will take 2 of these, and this is kind of what this looks like. Obviously it's not as creamy as the other cottage cheese, but it's still absolutely god tier. So right, 250 grams. This will obviously bring us up to 500 grams. And then we will go with 150 grams of this one. Right, so right, so 150 grams from this last packet of cottage cheese. 142, 151. Cool. So once you've got them added in, we are then going to crack 2 eggs into a separate bowl. Try not to fuck this up again. And once you've cracked them into a bowl, pop them in with the cottage cheese. And then we're going to add our sugar. And last but not least, just use a very small amount of salt. This is how much salt we're using. Don't need to weigh it out, you can salt these to taste once you get better at making them. And you're going to add that in to the bowl as well. Okay, so this is what our bowl currently looks like. Just take a big spoon and just start mixing all of this together. Okay, so once we have mixed all of our ingredients, this is roughly what it should look like. It is then time to add the flour. Now we have 120 grams of flour in a bowl here, which is usually the perfect amount for the amount of ingredients that we are adding to this. Get one of these things, this flour dispenser. It just makes the flour nice and thin when you're adding it to the mixture. We're not going to add all of the flour at once. We're going to add 2 or 3 big tablespoons at a time. I'll not record all of this, but you basically use up all of the flour. Get it added in to your mixture. You want to mix this basically until the point where you have one big, massive, solid ball that doesn't stick to your hands. Okay, so once you have rolled your mixture, this is roughly what it should look like. It's not going to be too sticky, it basically just is one big, massive ball, which isn't too sticky. Now we have left some flour from the original total weighted flour for the countertop. So we're basically going to place this onto the countertop and then roll it into one big long sausage shape. So we basically then place our big ball onto the countertop and we're going to roll it out probably to like a foot long size of sausage shape. So you're just basically going to roll this back and forth over the flour until it's probably like this. So now that we have our one big sausage shape, we're basically going to cut this in half, like this, and you're then going to take one half and just put that to the side for later. You're then going to take this half, the other half, and you're going to do the same thing again. So we're basically just going to roll this out, and you want it to be quite thin, so probably about sort of this size in thickness. We're going to roll that out once again, and then you're basically going to cut this one in half once again. So you will end up basically with 4 of these. Okay, so we now have our original half and our other original half, which we have done the same thing again with. And again, we're going to then chop that in half. Take 1/2 and again, put that to one side. So then this is basically what one of these quarters is going to look like. And you're going to then chop this basically into like very small, probably about 1 inch sized pieces, just like this. And you basically go the whole way along and chop it up. Okay, so we have then chopped that into small inch ball sized pieces. And once you've done that with 1/4, you're basically just going to repeat it with this quarter, obviously half this one, and then do the same with that again. So for the next part of this video, we're basically going to fill up 1 large pot with water and then bring that to the boil. Okay, so once the water is boiling, we're going to turn that down to a medium heat. Obviously, take your lid off. Now, we've not added anything to the water. The only thing we're going to add first is a small amount of salt, so a couple of turns from your salt shaker. And then you're basically going to add in your protein balls one at a time and basically just pop these in with your fingers to the boiling water. Now, once these are cooked, they will basically rise to the top of the water. Just make sure that you have enough space for each ball in the pot, so obviously don't add them all in together. I think we have 77 balls at the moment, so don't add them all in together, just add one at a time, make sure they've all got space. Once it's cooked, it's going to rise to the top, and you're then going to stick that in your glass tub with your butter. Okay, so once the protein balls, just like these ones, have started to rise to the top, that's when you know that they're cooked. And then use a spatula like this with the holes in it, and then basically just start to scoop these out, drain the water from them, and then stick them into your tub with the butter that we weighed out earlier, and then basically just repeat this until you've done it with all of them, stick them all into the one bowl, and then put the lid on. Now, once all of your protein balls are cooked, you will basically have a bowl like this, full of protein balls. Now, roughly per ball from the mixture that we've used and the ingredients that we've used, we have about 1.7 grams of protein per ball. An ideal sort of portion size for this would be about 25 protein balls, which again gives us 42.5 grams of protein and about 335 calories. So just now I'm going to basically take 25 balls out from this. So once you have measured out 25 of your finest protein balls, it's basically up to you what you want to add to this. If you're trying to get more protein in, obviously per 25 of these we have about 40 to 43 grams of protein, so you probably don't need to add additional protein to this meal, but you can use Faya yogurt, 0% fat. The one thing that does definitely help bring this to God tier level is condensed milk. Try and get a low calorie condensed milk, so I'm going to be adding condensed milk and blueberries, and that's it.